Welcome back everyone to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. This week I decided to work on another metallics series with a few colors I just love. I've got my Amsterdam silver, copper, gold, as well as some beautiful Prussian blue to work on with. So let's get into it and see how this one shakes out. Okay, now as for this pour, I decided to begin with my silver and leading into some Prussian blue, because I wanted to have the blue be a bit of a primary focal point and color for this particular painting. I found that the contrast between the light and dark looked really pretty, almost black. And this paint is really fluid, so it'll be fun to see how this one shakes out in the end, but let's keep on going with some copper and some gold. Now as I watch this video back, it's kind of funny because I know I wanted some gold and copper in the middle of this pour, but in my brain forgot to, of course, put the colors down right away, so I needed to hold both colors real quick, real fast, and get the small little puddles into the center to make sure that those colors were a part of my overall design in the middle. So I just moved out to the outside of the pour once I was through with the middle to again spread through my canvas, which is 14 inches by 18 inches. And this is a Meeden Arts canvas as well, which was a perfect size for this particular pour. Okay, and as for the colors I chose this week for the copper, the gold, and the silver, less so the blue, but more so the metallics. What do you mix your metallics or paints with? Now, I use a 50-50 combination of Artist Loft Medium with 50% Floetrol as well. Now, I find that if you look down on the copper, maybe more specific for the sake of a pattern, it gives a nice circular kind of blend to what I've used as my pouring medium. Now, I found that over the past few months, in this combination, it makes a really cool swirl effect through the puddles, but also through other types of designs, like my previous week, this last week, brushed painting, which came out quite nice but gave contrast, which is really quite cool. So let me know what you guys may use for the sake of your pouring medium in the comments below, and we can compare maybe recipes each to each, but I'm very curious what you guys may use for your medium. Okay, and as for this particular part of my pour, I'm a big fan of breaking up my puddles into the other colors that are nearby. So with all my colors, I want to go with the back of a paintbrush through my silver, gold, copper, and my blue into the other colors, making sure I overlap each color into every other puddle. Now, as I'm looking down on this particular pour, I can tell already the blue is much more thin as it's kind of bleeding into the other colors just a little bit. So again, just be mindful of your consistencies of your paints. You want them to be very similar. If you have one that's a bit more thin than the other, it can cause not problems, but differences in what your consistency and overall composition may look like. And as for my swipes, I was really quite pleased with how these turned out. I was very mindful in making sure to go through the blue first into the metallics afterward, because I have found in previous pours and paintings that the metallics, when dragged through with a darker color, really come out quite pretty, and the lacing overall was really nice. Now, as for this sped up video, this is simply extra paint I had in addition to what's on the canvas for my puddles. Now all I'm doing is making sure that my pattern and my lacing are going to be kept in the middle of the canvas, allowing this extra to be spilled over on purpose. So I'm intentionally dumping the gold and copper and blue on the outside because I know it's going to spill over, which will keep my pattern on the inside of the canvas rather than spill off the edge once we get to the corners of my tilts. Okay, and getting into my tilts for the first couple corners. Now, looking back on this video, when I choose which corner to tilt off of, first of all, I want to make sure I know where the weight of all this paint is on the canvas, because you want it kind of centered as best you can in the middle before kind of deciding which pattern to move up or down or left or right. And that way you got enough paint to have good coverage on the entire painting once you're done. So there was plenty of paint on his canvas, maybe a bit too much actually, so it moved quite fluid, and I was very intentional with my movements, going quite slow and kind of corner to corner with the, as we look down on it, closest to us corners, because I had nice lacing off the first corner, which looks great, but I didn't want to stretch it too much, knowing that if you tilt a little bit too aggressively, it can pull that lacing apart and begin to kind of distort what your pattern was to begin with. So again, be mindful of how quickly you're going and where you want your patterns to be. Now, in terms of the actual color composition of this painting, I'm quite happy with how the Prussian Blue worked with the metallics. I was a little hesitant when I chose the dark blue because I wasn't quite sure how it may react with the metallics generally. So in terms of contrast, it did a great job breaking up the metallics like I'd hoped, so I'm glad it worked out as I kind of had planned. So you could always never quite know how your colors may turn out with a swipe. So I'm glad that the blue worked out the way it did, and very happy I was able to manage to keep this lacing all over like I planned. And as we bring this color back into the center by just kind of dragging it back and forth into the middle, thanks for being here, I appreciate you. If you're new, thank you for being here as well. Consider hitting that like button for some support of this particular video and my channel. And if you haven't, please think of subscribing as well, I appreciate it. And in terms of this painting, I'm just kind of wrapping up where I want my patterns to be. So in my case, you always want to try to make sure, I think, that you put your pattern where you want, but try to center your paint as well as best you can, knowing that when you put it down, it's not always going to be as level as you hope, but you do your best based on what you have as a surface. So I'm quite happy with how this one turned out, and especially the lacing in this piece. I was really happy with the blue and how it worked out with these metallics. And going in for a bit of an overhead look of the finished piece, I'm curious to know what you guys think on this particular color choice of mine and the overall composition of the painting itself. So leave me a brief comment in the comment section below, and I'm curious again what you guys think. I'm quite happy with how the silver really helped every other color out. And again, if you have enjoyed it, please click the thumbs up below, and we'll of course see you again in the next one.